Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast. Time to hashtag everything. We talk about all the fun, crazy stories on social media. From Instagram to Facebook, Twitter to Tumblr, or probably even Friendster. Join us each week as we explore the quirky side of social media. It's the Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast.
It's simple, such a sad song. The one that we rely on to get us.
Hello, and welcome to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast, brought to you by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Staci.
And I'm your co-host, Sarah.
And today we're talking about old, young, and pockets. Yes, that's exactly it. So our first story is that the world's oldest person has died. And so obviously there's a new world's oldest person,
right.
Which is why I paused there. But the previous world's oldest person was a 117-year-old Japanese woman by the name of Nabitajima, who was born in August 4th, 1900. Wow. That's just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. My husband's grandmother actually lived to be great. I don't remember how many greats, but I think it was his mother's great grandmother. So his great. She was 117.
Wow.
Born in slavery.
Wow.
Which is great. I mean, it's crazy. Obviously, This was a long time ago. He didn't know her, but I can't even fathom. 100 seems amazing. 117 seems really amazing.
Well, and it was so funny when I was reading this because they were like, she survived by she had 7 children and many great-great-great-grandchildren.
Right.
Like, we've skipped the first 2 greats. We're on to 3 greats.
Right. Those intervening generations. Yeah, whatever. But
how many greats are there? And I wonder if they would have to, at some point create a new term as people live more and more longer for beyond great.
Right. Well, and yes, or some
great
easier
to the nth power.
Exactly, some easier way to say it. Plus, you're a septuagenarian, you're an octogenarian, you're a nonagenarian. What are you when you're the 110s? Well, you're a
centennial.
But what's 110? I don't even know. There's probably a Roman numeral name for it or something.
It's like 11th. What was it when Bilda was like my 11th-1st birthday? My 11th-7th birthday. We're making up words now.
Yeah, that's amazing. Did it say when you were looking into this, what kind of health she was in?
She was living in a hospital for the past few months, but she was still able to... It's not clear how well she was able to communicate, but she was able to recognize things. So they said that she really liked this traditional Japanese music that was played. And there was a video of her sort of clapping her hands along with it. But it's not clear how sort of cognizant she was other than, okay, there's music playing and I like that sound.
Well, okay.
So...
That's still amazing.
Right.
I mean, for 117 to be able to still recognize and interact with the world around you.
Right. And so the new world's oldest person is also a Japanese woman. And this has kind of been known for a while that Japan tends to have people who live a long time. So that of the world's oldest people, 22 are women and 13 of the 24 oldest live in Japan.
Oh, wow.
And it's just like, okay.
So the moral of this story is move to Japan. Actually, it's be born Japanese.
Well, no, it's neither. And you've seen this in books like Blue Zones or completely blanking on the other book name, but where they're talking about, why do certain places tend to have either people who live a long time or have no sign of diabetes or whatever, even though other parts, even within the same country, totally do. And so one of it is and you saw this when the Mediterranean diet came out, is there was also the Japanese diet. And that part of it is their diet, but that also part of it is sort of the social culture. And so that a lot of Japanese people eat a good amount of fish, but also a lot of vegetables, but then, a good number of them garden and have social ties as well. And that helps beyond just the regular, get your however many servings of vegetables a day.
Right. Yeah. As opposed to, kind of the junk food culture that many of us live in. And we tend to be a lot more isolated from our families just with the nature of the way our society has evolved.
Right.
So, yeah, that makes sense.
But it's not necessary just to be Japanese. Like the woman who was before her, the world's oldest woman who just died, I think last year, was from Jamaica. Okay. So it's not just the Japanese. It's just a lot of the Japanese. A lot of them are Japanese. But it's also that this is... We're saying world's oldest person, but it may or may not be. It's the world's oldest sort of certified by Guinness oldest person. Right. Because there was someone who just died in the past year or two who claimed to have been born and had an ID that said this in like 1870. Oh my gosh. Just like, yeah, but and Guinness kind of refused to believe that and was like, yeah, we don't buy that. So he's not, if he would have been like 130 something, but they were like, yeah, 140 something. So it's whoever Guinness has found, and there's been other people who've claimed to be, really old, but they don't have the records to prove it, depending on, their country and their country's history and whether or not those records would still exist or would have been destroyed or something. Right. So it's possible there is someone who's actually older now than the new person who's also 117, but just can't prove that.
Did the article happen to mention who the oldest person oldest verified person was? I mean,
like ever?
Yeah.
I do not remember, but they were 120 something, I think. Okay. I cannot remember. And I think it was a woman as well. But the thing I like really much about this is beyond, this woman who lived 117 years and has like maybe 100 something great grandchildren. I don't even remember. They just were like many greats to the third or so power grandchildren. Is it sparked off this big debate over whether or not she was born in the 19th century. Because the articles kept saying the last woman known to be born in the 19th century, but then it's like August 4th, 1900. And so there's a lot of people who are going, that's the 20th century. What are you talking about? And it started this big debate of whether or not 1900 is the 20th or the 19th century. And of course, as debates do on social media, quickly became rather heated.
Well, I would say it's the 20th, but I'm not going to, get involved in an argument.
Right. Well, and when I read that too, I was like, okay. And I think it was, I don't remember if it was on Time or whatever, but it was some, well-known journalism site. And I was just like, how do you call that? How did you get that wrong? Right. I mean, like, don't you understand 1900s are the 20th? But then in looking at it with the argument for people who were like, no, actually they're right. It's the 19th century. The way that evidently this works is there isn't a year zero AD, evidently.
Right.
It goes from 1 BC to 1 AD, and then we go forward. Lord. So since there isn't a year zero, year one actually ends when we get to year two. So you actually have evidently another year, I guess, in the same way, like if you're counting to 100 with, dollars or whatever.
Right.
100 is the end of that 100. It's not 100 starts a whole nother set of 100. You have to have 100 before you can start that next set because you can't technically count zero of something.
Yeah.
It's a little confusing, right?
It is. And it's sort of common parlance when slang gets put into the Merriam-Webster dictionary. This is the way it's understood. I mean, I get the argument. I do, but I think most people would understand it in terms of, not thinking about that year zero.
Well, and I think,
so do you want to be, I don't know, do you want to be technically right, or do you want to be like
that most common understanding? Parlance, yeah.
Right.
But I think also it was probably a lot of people were thrown off by Y2K. Right. Because you had the fear of, oh my gosh, it's 2000 and it's going to start everything else and welcome to the 21st. It's like, but actually the 21st century did not start till January 1st, 2001.
No, let's see. I can't.
No, that's weird.
I can wrap my brain around on that, but I'm not going to go back in my head to that time and be like, nope, we're still in the 19th century. I'm just going to.
Yeah, the year 2000, Y2K was still totally 19th century. We had no problems.
That's like, so 19th century.
It's I mean, now it makes me. What are we even in now? The teens or the
I know the aughts.
The tens.
We are not when we were in the 09 or the 08, and people were debating on what to call that.
Yeah.
Is it the aughts? And now we're in the teens.
Wasn't it the O's? Because the aughts were the 1900s, maybe.
I heard the aughts, but maybe I don't know. I don't know that we ever fully settled on what that decade was.
Well, I remember when I was younger, and it came up in some of the old movies where they were talking about like the gay 90s, and I was just like.
Yeah, that would be the 1890s.
The what?
Yeah.
Really?
There was actually a bar in Missoula, Montana called the Gay 90s. I don't know if it's still there. And that was, in the 80s. So it was definitely referring to the 1890s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then do you also remember how we had the argument over what we were supposed to say? Is it 2001?
Oh.
Is it 2001? Is it
2001: A Space Odyssey?
Right. Is it, do we refer to it as 01? Is it just one?
I'm just more upset that I still don't have a flying car. Like, this was totally promised to me, at least by Back to the Future, if nothing else, like 3 years ago, and I still don't have a flying car. What is this?
I'm sorry.
On that note, we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast.
Always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Welcome back to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast. Before our break, we were talking about the world's oldest person, and now we're talking about not the youngest person, but I definitely was not this bold when I was young.
Me either.
In that a 12-year-old boy from Sydney stole his mother's credit card and flew by himself to Bali. And I'm just like...
I have so many comments. The first of which would be, my parents have never had a credit card, so I couldn't have done this at the age of 12. It never would have occurred to me to do this at the age of 12. And Bali? I mean, there's so many things. I have so many questions.
Well, so Bali, evidently he and his mother had a fight about Bali. He wanted to go and she said no, though I'm not sure why Bali came up to begin with. And he decided, you know what? I don't care that you said no. And took her credit card and somehow tricked his grandmother into giving him his passport. And found an airline that would let him, at 12 years old, fly without anybody accompanying him, and booked a flight to Bali and went by himself. And like a lot of the things that came up about this is it felt like very Home Alone. And even with Home Alone, I was just like, yeah, I probably would have been dead.
It made me think of Sleepless in Seattle, where the little girl, his friend, is the daughter of travel agents, and so she books him a flight, and she goes into the system in her parents' house and like does this, and then she's like, I'll just say that you're 12 or whatever age, but you look really young, so don't bring it up because it embarrasses you, and then you can fly unaccompanied or something stupid like that. And wow,
yeah,
that takes some balls, let me just say.
Well, and evidently, and this is the thing that I think threw a lot of people off, he was only questioned once during this whole thing, which was at Perth Airport, where staff only asked to see his ID to make sure he was 12. And then nobody else ever questioned this kid flying by himself to a totally different country.
Wow.
Which on the one hand, okay, kind of a little terrifying if my child wants to run away. It's not just, oh, now I'm running away on the bus. It's running away to a totally different country. But on the other hand, in this era of totally different types of families and mixed families and a lot of marriages ending in divorce, it's very common, I think, for children to fly by themselves to go see one parent or the other. And there's a lot more, international and interracial marriages. So it's very likely that a good number of those are in a different country.
Right.
And it would be kind of annoying if every time it's like, oh, wait, where's the parent that's flying? My mother's not flying with me to see her ex-husband. Leave me alone.
But don't they usually, even if you're flying unaccompanied without an adult, like they have a way of identifying you and you are walked from one plane, like from one gate to another if you have connecting flights by some airline staff. I don't know exactly, but I thought that's maybe how it worked.
Some airlines do, but Yeah, I don't know, because he's from Sydney, but then was at Perth, and I'm not from Australia, so I don't know.
Right, I don't know their rules. That. It also makes me think of when I was a kid, comic strips would always show the kid running away, and he'd have a stick over one shoulder,
right,
and
with
the little bag, the handkerchief tied. Things are so different.
Well, I never got that cartoon anyways. I was like, what is in that? You can't possibly have everything you need in that little stick and handkerchief to run away.
Right, but that's definitely a different era, like way before my time, because as a kid I would have just taken a backpack, but like I didn't have the internet. I didn't have the ability to book a plane ticket.
Well, and I never would have wanted to do that. Like, even when I was upset with my mother and the thought crossed my mind of maybe I'll run away, I'm like, yeah, but no. Because, she provides a roof over my head and food. And, like, I'm safe at night. And I really don't have to think about that. And, this fight that we're having, I recognize that it'll probably go away in a couple of hours or couple of days, and we'll be okay again for another, a good while. It was mostly good and not so much like I hate you all the time. So the thought of running away was like, that is way too hard and scary and does not outweigh whatever I'm going through at this moment.
I'm a little scared to even know what the grumpy people on the internet are saying about this mom, because they're going to be grumpy about her parenting.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of, and I mean, more of them were like essentially somewhere along the lines of someone needs to get a switch and give that kid a spanking.
Oh, jeez.
Which I'm just like,
right.
I mean, at least he's ingenious. You don't have to worry about your child being creative. And the mom did say, he has a hard time, taking no for an answer. And I'm like, that's a whole nother level of not taking no for an answer at 12.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the first instinct here is to be like, well, she needs to rein in her child, blah blah blah. But that's it's we don't live in that environment. We don't understand the whole story. So I want to be like, oh man, lady, get control of your son, not get a switch and spank him, but but. On the other hand, I do not know this situation. I don't know. He could be a lovely child other than this one incident. Right. And then my other question is, what happened?
So, I cannot even remember how they found out. The mother did have to fly out to Bali and go get her son.
So he got his wish.
I mean, Mom, I got to go to Bali. Told you so.
And my mom is here.
But yeah, I mean, there's probably going to be... There probably was a definite talking to, and let's not leave, credit cards or whatever lying around where the child can get at them. And I mean, there's a lot. And like, I
can't even picture the consequences big enough to,
you are grounded. You're grounded. You're 18.
You're not allowed to have any internet time. I mean, how can you even?
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Because the kid clearly, found a way to get around this, to go online and find like an airline, like specifically knew to look for an airline that will let me fly I'm just like, oh my God.
Wow.
You have to get as creative as your kid to punish them for that. Like really create something amazing to get at. But like the way that Home Alone came up a lot got me thinking, and I watched Home Alone a gazillion times when I was a kid, and it was fun to see him get over on the two thieves and whatever. But it didn't occur to me until I was older of, wait, why? Especially in the second one, why are you so okay with this?
Right.
Like the first one, fine, you had a fight and you wished that you didn't have to see your family again, so you thought that was magic and that you had somehow made them disappear. Okay, fine, cool with that. But in the second one, you specifically know you got on the wrong plane and my family's in Florida or whatever and I'm in New York, and your first thought is, let's go crazy? My first thought would be like, I need to find someone to call my mother.
Just the fact that there was a second one. I mean, come on. If you ever take a family vacation, and these people are fictional, so I can totally troll them. If you ever take a family vacation, freaking handcuff that child to your wrist.
That is the one. And they were running. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, how the second one happened, I get it from his point of view. It's kind of, you're kind of terrible parents. From the parents' point of view, because you totally knew this the last time and you freaked out in the van or whatever, and then saw he was there, but then we have to run for the flight. Is everyone here? Yes, of course. You just assume everyone's there. You've got like a party.
Didn't they see
12.
like just like a blonde kid or something, and that's when they assumed? I can't remember.
No. In the first one,
I mean the second one, because they like, is everyone here? They sort of counted heads, didn't they?
They didn't count at all.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Or if they did, it's like, how do you not notice the one kid who got left behind last time is not here? Shouldn't that be the first thing you think of? It would have made much more sense if you had left a different child behind. Fine, I can kind of understand that, because again, you have between the two families a lot of kids. But to leave the same child behind, you really didn't stop and think specifically, where is that child?
What was this kid's plans once he got to Bali? Did he take the credit card with him? How was he going to pay for stuff? Where was he going to stay? I mean, again,
he booked
I would
a
have freaked out.
He booked a hotel, which is again why Home Alone came up, because it's like,
right,
you can somehow do that and check into a hotel by yourself. He told, I think, the people at the hotel that he was waiting for his sister or something.
Oh.
And they bought that because...
I'm a little worried this kid's going to grow up to be an evil genius.
Right? Or, I don't know.
Something.
Yeah. I could never have done that even at like 20. Never mind at 12.
I mean, I traveled alone my senior year of high school. And I know people travel alone, younger than that. I did my first... I'd never flown before, even with parents. And I flew to Washington, D.C. for a mock Congress thing, and I remember I just cried from Missoula to just because I was a little freaked out. So yeah, I don't think I could have handled. Nope.
I mean, I did fly once when I was young, unaccompanied, to see my father, but I had my sister with me at the time, so I wasn't like I was technically unaccompanied by an adult,
right?
But that there was a very specific thing. My mother got to walk to the gate where I was, and then told the flight attendant or whoever, these are my children, and they're flying by themselves. And the flight attendants made sure we were okay and checked on us a couple of times during the flight. And then when we got to the other airport, my father was right there waiting at the gate, because I guess you're allowed to also go in and be like, hey, I'm picking up my child who's not flying with anyone, so I don't have to have a ticket.
Right.
So the only time I had to freak out was during the flight. And yet I was still kind of freaked out about this. Like, what if they're not there? Or what if I can't find them in the airport? And then both me and my sister were like not even teens at the time. And it's like, how do I deal with this? I'm the oldest. Oh, this is too stressful.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So wish that mother well as you continue to raise your child. We're going to take another short break. Stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast. We were sort of pitying a mother before our break, but I want to kind of congratulate this next mother, or sort of give her a standing round of applause, in that a mother tweeted about how she was upset that her toddler daughter's pants didn't have pockets in them, or didn't have pockets that you could actually do anything with, and got a huge response. Like, this thing got over 230,000 likes just over like one weekend.
This makes much more sense than I love your typo, because you didn't say putting pockets in the toddler's pants. You put putting pants in the toddler's pants, and I was like, when I first read that, I was like, this makes no sense. And then when I read more, but that's one of my favorite memes on social media is the, oh hey, I like your dress. I know it has pockets.
Yeah.
Like, why can't women's clothing have pockets? And don't put fake pockets, because that just really ticks me off.
I hate fake, but like more so don't put, I get why you would sometimes put fake pockets just because of the look, but if you're going to do fake pockets, don't do the fake pockets where it looks like the pocket's on the outside. Like, but then it's completely sewn closing. Like, fine if you put the little like slit pocket, but then there's no actual pocket.
No, that still makes me angry.
I'm still annoyed, but I'm not as annoyed as if you took much more fabric to make it look like a pocket and I still can't use it.
Right. I understand why they sew the pockets shut sometimes before you buy it, but you can at least open that seam. But I really hate it when I open the seam and there's still no pocket.
Yeah, and I remember I went to the Apple store for something was going on with my computer, and the woman who was helping me and I, while we're waiting for the computer to like boot up or something, got into this huge discussion about how great Apple's got these newer, bigger cell phones, and I can't put them in my pants. Like, there's like, they had to make special pants for women to put this in. Like, I tend to put mine in my back pocket, but even then it like sticks out.
Right.
And I'm always afraid it's going to like fall out. I'm just like, I saw a friend just at school once pulled it out of like his front pocket, and it was completely, I was like, I am so jealous. Why can't I get pockets like that?
And what is it about men's pants that, like, I've seen men put 22 pounds of stuff in their pockets,
right.
And you can't tell, is it because their pants are pleated? I don't even know. Like dress pants for men, they have all kinds of crap in there. I stick something in my pocket and it looks like I've got a growth. I mean, what is the difference? Are our pants too tight? I don't wear tight pants, but what's the design difference there? Someone explain it to me.
Yeah, why can't I have legitimate? And that's why I think she got so many likes, was a lot of women were like, you know what, even for grown women, never mind the toddlers.
Exactly.
Why can't a grown woman? Fine, you don't want your toddler putting stuff in the pockets because then it'll get in the wash or whatever,
right.
And blah blah blah.
And they shoplift stuff.
You're a toddler.
No, really, they pick stuff up, they put it in their pockets if you're not paying attention.
Well, no, and that was why the mother was upset, is because her daughter didn't like her pants because she couldn't put like stones and little treasures that she had collected while exploring in her pockets. And so it was like, and other mothers chimed in of like, yeah, my daughter doesn't ever want to wear dresses because she can't put her secrets in her pockets. And it's just like, yeah, wait a minute.
The struggle is real, people.
Like, I want my daughter to keep this like wanting to explore attitude as long as possible, and your clothing makers, you are not helping. And adult clothing makers, you are not. I cannot go exploring and put secret stones in my pockets. I will quickly not have any room whatsoever, and they don't fit well when you do that. And just why can't? And I know there's like, I actually had to look this up one time because I was really confused about why women's like buttons are on the different other side.
Oh, right.
Because I was like, actually, what is the point of that?
Yeah, it's not like men are left-handed and women are right-handed or something.
Right. Most people are right-handed, regardless of gender. But it actually was when clothes started being like mass manufactured, most women still had like help getting dressed. And since most people are right-handed, they made it with regards to the help, so that the help could easier, do the buttons up or whatever, since the woman supposedly is not doing it herself, and have evidently just continued that. Right.
And you get used to it that way. And then when you put on a shirt that's designed for men for whatever reason, it's completely weird to try to button that shirt. The muscle memory is all wrong.
Well, why can't we just have like unisex clothes? Like, wouldn't that just be simpler?
It would. But we don't live in that society.
And then we'd all have pockets that we could put our cell phones in, or wallets.
I mean, unisex clothes wouldn't always work because, men and women are shaped a little differently. Because women have a few more curves.
Right.
And our waists are like, we have waists and men kind of don't have waists. Like,
right.
I mean, they do technically, but their pants go in different places than ours do.
Or like guys can be bulkier in the shoulders or whatever.
Yeah.
So I mean, you'd have to change the sizing, and sizing is a whole nother issue with clothing.
And my other question about this is why, and I think it's getting a little better, there are some manufacturers doing it this way, but why can't women's pants be sized like men's pants with an inseam and a waistband size?
Well, that was for vanity. That was, the clothing makers did it to play up to women's vanity. Like, that's why clothing sizes are different than they used to be.
Right.
And so like, what is a 10 now is not what was a 10 in like the 70s.
Right. But you also shouldn't wear a size 0. I mean, that size should just never, I mean, I'm not criticizing people who are a size 0. I'm just saying we shouldn't have a size 0. There's got to be a better way to do this.
So, yeah, I mean, lots of different problems with clothing. I generally hate clothing shopping. It's like,
don't even get me started on the three-way mirrors with the fluorescent lights.
This is just, I have to set aside like a whole day and just accept that I'm not going to be in a good mood when I get home, that this is not going to be a happy occasion, and I'll be lucky if, you know, I find 5 things out of the like 200 I try on. Right. That was a good day of shopping if that's the case.
So cute on the teeny tiny, perfectly sculpted mannequin.
Yeah.
Then you put it on a normal body and it's like, oh.
Or even so much like it looks really cute on that person, but does not look cute on me. I'm just like, darn it, really?
Yeah.
Jeans especially. Jeans are annoying. Once I find like a pair of jeans, I used to know, and I've completely forgotten now because I haven't gone jean shopping, but I used to know my specific like number on Levi's. I specifically found the type of jeans that I liked, that I felt looked good on me, and what my size was and what wash I wanted, and I would just like order like 3 pairs of those a year, and then I forgot, and so now I have to go through that whole process again.
Well, it's probably changed too.
That too, and I'm just like, I don't want to.
I don't want to.
I hate that whole thing. So what we're saying is, clothing manufacturers,
get it together.
Get with it. And on that note, we're going to end for today. Thank you for listening to this GSMC Social Media News Podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Social Media Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.